Not gonna lie, bro. I used to be addicted to junk food, porn, social media, and video games all at the exact same time. And I always wanted to quit, and I would try, and then it'd be a few days, probably like 1 or 2 days, and I'd just fall right back down into the abyss of my addictions. And I really wanted to escape them, but it seemed like no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't do it. And you probably feel the same way. So in this video, I'm gonna give you 5 ways that you can actually quit your addictions. And this won't be the usual advice you literally always hear. This is gonna be something a little bit different and stuff that will actually work. All right, bro, so the first thing I want you to do is just admit to yourself that you're an addict. And just put your ego aside and admit to yourself that you're an addict. And say it out loud if you can. Once you do this, you're above like 80% of addicts, because most people who are addicted to stuff never even realize it and never put their ego aside just to admit that they have this huge problem. So now that you're doing this, all the other steps that I'll teach you will work because you made the first step that so many people don't. So just put your ego aside and admit to yourself that you have this huge problem, and then all these other steps will actually work because you're putting your ego aside and you're ready to learn. Massive misconception that your addictions are the problems, and that's not true. Your addictions are symptoms of the real problems, which is poor mental health. The way that I stopped being awkward and overthinking, meditating. The way that I stopped being extremely stressed and overthinking before bed, journaling and gratitude journaling. I just started improving my mental health by meditating, improving my diet, my sleep, going out in nature, being more mindful, and journaling. I didn't have this feeling to indulge in these bad habits anymore. So what you need to do is fix your mental health, and you probably have some like deep pent-up trauma that you haven't resolved yet. So spend a lot of time trying to fix your mental health and figure out what you're traumatized by, and start doing these better habits to improve your mental health. This is really the most important thing to really get things started. Usually when we indulge into something that we're addicted to, it's when we start to feel a little bit down. Maybe there's a negative thought that kind of makes our state a little bit lower, or more sad, or maybe we're just starting to feel a little sad in this certain time. And so we use this substance to try to make our state a little bit happier, right? And what you're doing is you're avoiding the real problem, which is that bad mental health and those traumas that you're facing. So what you need to do is, instead of using that drug to like kind of revamp your state, you just need to sit there and accept that you're gonna feel like shit and just go all the way down to this place that you haven't explored yet. I know it sounds kind of weird, but when you start to feel that feeling of feeling down, you need to just accept it and just see where it takes you, okay? You need to do this because it's breaking the cycle of you covering up this bad feeling or trauma that you have been masking up and avoiding this entire time with whatever you are addicted to. Step 2 is mindfulness. So what is mindfulness and how do we get there? So if you're in class thinking about what you're going to do the next day, or your homework or upcoming tests, that is the opposite of being mindful. A good example of being mindful is hitting a workout and you're not thinking about anything except for the workout, and you really just feel your body working out and the pump really well. Or you could be playing guitar and all you're focusing on is just feeling the strings on your fingers and listening to the notes in your brain, and you're not thinking about anything else except for what you're doing right then and there in the moment. So we know that improving your mental health is what really solves the addictions. And mindfulness is one of the best ways to improve your mental health. And we achieve more mindfulness through doing meditation. So try to think of meditation as the gym, and the mindfulness is the gains that you get from it. So every time you meditate, you'll be getting some mindfulness gains. So meditation is like the mental workout to get the gains, which are mindfulness. Sometimes we just need to build up our willpower. It's plain and simple. And I think the best way to build up our willpower is to stare at whatever we are addicted to. So find the location where you do whatever you're addicted to. So it could be like you smoke weed in your room at like 4 p.m. in the night when no one's home. Find the exact situation where you usually relapse or do whatever you're addicted to the most, and get that thing you're addicted to and put it on a desk in front of you and just stare at it aggressively. Stare at this thing like a psychopath. Don't use it. Don't end up eating the tasty snack. Just look at it with extreme intent and be angry at it. And if you don't end up folding and you don't end up using this thing, congrats, bro. You just made one step to building up your willpower. And if you can do this every single day and just stare at it for like 5 minutes aggressively, so I know it sounds really weird, but this actually worked for me. You just stare at it and you're like, I'm not gonna fold to you. Like, You just look at it like your enemy and you don't fold to this thing that you're addicted to. If you do that every single day, you're going to build up your willpower to an insanely strong point. And what this does is it helps you build up the willpower for that one situation where you really want to relapse, you really want to do this drug, but you have this skill and this power that you built up to not do that. Because a lot of times that urge is just too much for us to handle and we end up folding and relapsing. You're basically preparing yourself for that situation better. So when it does happen, you'll be ready. That was good. Friendship and environment. So you've probably heard the term that you are the average of your 5 closest friends or something like that, right? So if your 5 closest friends do the same thing that you're addicted to, then you should distance yourself from them because you're going to get influenced and you're going to end up relapsing. So if you're like addicted to smoking weed and all your friends do it all the time, then you got to stay away from them if you really care about quitting. It's going to be extremely hard to not drink alcohol when you're in an environment with people who are doing alcohol and you're the only one that's not doing it. So what I did to quit porn and video games is I changed my environment a little bit. So the time when I would play the most video games and watch the most porn was around the afternoon when nobody was home. So what I did is just around those time of the days, I would make sure to just leave the house and I would change my environment because I knew that that environment was the worst time for me because that's when I would indulge in these activities a lot. So change your friend groups if they are doing this bad habit because that'll influence you and it's really hard not to do it. And try to figure out what environment you relapse the most in and what environment you do these addictive things the most in. And once you find those 2 things out, just change them. So thank you so much for watching, bro. If you actually follow the advice religiously in this video and you put your full effort into it, I promise you that you'll make a lot of great progress on your addictions. I have 2, and now I feel a lot more free and alive than I did a couple of years ago. So just implement it. If you have a friend that wants to try it, help them out too. And I hope you can make some great progress.